Hi everyone, I'm Nick Olivo, and today we're going to see how to automate the 5th edition spell Mirror Image using a whole bunch of mods. When everything is said and done, we'll be able to have our caster automatically pop in 3 mirror images onto the battlefield, complete with special effects, and we'll also automatically determine whether or not an attack hits the mirror image or hits the caster. Before we dive in, I'd just like to thank Roll20 for sponsoring this video. So let's recap real quick on what Mirror Image does. When cast, it creates 3 illusionary duplicates of the caster. And so when the caster is attacked, the caster rolls a d20 to see if the attack hits them or if it hits one of the duplicates. And the number that they have to roll on that d20 changes depending upon how many duplicates are still around. So if you have 3 duplicates in play, you need to roll a 6 on that d20. If you have 2 duplicates, you need to roll an 8, and if you have 1 duplicate left, you need to roll an 11. And then if the attack hits a duplicate, you need to see if it beats the duplicate's AC, which is 10 plus the caster's dexterity modifier. If it does hit, then the duplicate is destroyed. Otherwise, the duplicate persists and the spell continues until there are no duplicates left remaining. So let's see how we can automate this. The first thing we're going to do is create a new character sheet in our game, and we're going to call this character sheet Mirror Image. And this character sheet is going to be controlled by whichever player is the one who casts Mirror Image. So in my case, it's my player Daisy. So it's in her journal and it can be edited and controlled by her. Then we also want to have a token for this Mirror Image. And so you can see right here, her character Syel looks like this. And so what I've done is used some image tools to flip that image, basically creating a mirror image of it. There we go. All right, so I've uploaded that and I'm going to resize it accordingly. And then what I'm going to do is make this the default token for the mirror image character sheet. So I'm going to say use selected token, and then we're going to save changes on that. Okay, and we'll just make this an NPC because really all we're using it for is the token that we're going to have spawned onto the battlefield. So we'll close this now. And so our final piece of setup here is to double click on the token, and we just want to make sure that the name actually says Mirror Image. And if it doesn't, like you see here, I'm making the change, click this update default token and then save settings. And we'll delete this off the battlefield. And so with that prerequisite step done, let's see now what mods we need to install in order to automate this. So the first mod that we need is called Spawn Default Token. This one comes to us from David M, and this is what's going to actually spawn all of those mirror images onto the battlefield. Now, in conjunction with that, multiTokenFx is a script that I wrote, and that's what's going to allow the burst of magic to appear when those new tokens are spawned onto the board. We're also going to use chatsetAttra, which comes to us from Jacob, and that's going to deduct a level 2 spell slot from our caster's character sheet. Then we're going to use script cards to handle the logic and output. So that card that you saw in chat that listed how many images were left, the number we had to roll, and so on, that is handled from script cards. And then finally, we're going to use the MetaScript toolbox, which comes to us from Timoth. And this is going to handle a lot of the behind the scenes things that we're going to need in order to make this work. Now, one quick note here. When you install the MetaScript toolbox, it's going to install a bunch of scripts into your game. You're going to see things like Zero Frame, Plugger, Mueller, Select Manager, Fetch. We're going to use a bunch of those in this process. So just say yes to that. MetaScript Toolbox is basically just giving you all the things that you're going to need rather than having to install them one by one. All right, so jumping back into our game, I've got my trusty Notepad++ window here. Let's go ahead, let's start writing the code. And the first thing we're going to do is spawn in the mirror images onto the battlefield. So the first command we're going to write looks like this, where we say !spawn, and we're saying, okay, what character are we spawning? We're going to spawn in mirror image, and we're going to spawn in 3 mirror images surrounding the selected token. So if I copy this command right now, and I highlight my Bard's token, and I run this command, you see we get in our 3 mirror images. So that's awesome. That's working properly. I'm just going to go ahead and delete these guys real quick. All right, so then the next thing that we want to do after we've got the images spawned in is we want to deduct a level 2 spell slot from our character sheet. So that line is going to look like this. This is using chat_set_attr. And what we're saying is we're modifying the attributes of the selected character, and we are taking their level 2 spell slots and we're reducing them by 1. If I copy this line right here, and let's pull up our character sheet, you can see I currently have 3 level 2 spell slots. If I run this command and I have my bard highlighted, we can see that it reduces it down to 2. And we also get this message from chat_set_attr saying that we've set the level 2 spell slots expended to 2. We can suppress this by adding in a silent flag, and now if we run this again, we won't see that output. So I'm going to run this. You see it went down to 1, but it didn't give me that message again. And that's just nice because it's going to keep this from cluttering up your chat. So I recommend running with the silent flag off while you're building your macros, and then when you're good and got everything working, go ahead and put silent on there. And then the final thing we want is that burst of magical energy when the mirror images are summoned in. And so that's going to be done with a command that looks like this, where we say multiTokenFx, we're doing the burst effect. The coloring is the magic coloring, which is that rainbow color. And the tokens that we're applying it to are the ones named mirror image. So this and select mirror image syntax here, this is using select manager to programmatically highlight the mirror image tokens that have been added to the board. So effectively, we're changing the selected token from our bard Syel to the mirror images once they are on the board. So let's take this right now and let's go ahead and run this. And so I'm just going to pop this on here, click run, and now we can see that we spawned in the mirror images correctly. We reduced the number of level 2 spell slots correctly, but we didn't get the magical effect. In fact, we've got a message from multiTokenFx saying, please select some tokens. What's happened here is that the macro ran so fast that we got to the multiTokenFx line before the spawn line had finished. And that means when Select Manager tried to select those mirror image tokens, they weren't there yet. And that's why we got this error. So what we need to do is slow that line down. We need to insert a delay so that the spawn line has a chance to finish before we try to run multiTokenFx. And we're going to be able to insert that delay using the 0 frame mod. So 0 frame is another one of those meta mods that is included in the Metascript toolbox. So if you've installed that, you've got it. And really all we need to do is we're going to start out by wrapping our existing commands in a set of double curly braces like this. So we start with an exclamation point, double curly braces, and then what we're going to do is come down here to the multiTokenFx line, and we're going to add in these symbols here. So these parentheses and this caret is saying we are going to delay this line, and specifically we're delaying the select command that you see right here. And then we need to specify how long we're delaying for. And we're going to say that we're going to delay for 0.2 seconds. So now let me re-add some spell slots here. And let's delete our old mirror images. If we run this as it is, you can see that we spawned in our 3 tokens, we had the magical effect, and we deducted a spell slot. So this is working as expected, and just for expediency's sake, I've deleted the tokens off the board again. The final thing we want to do here is put in a note into chat stating that Syel has cast mirror image. And that's going to look like this, where we say template desk. This is Roll20's description template. This is just how the output is going to be formatted. And all we're saying is that Syel casts mirror image. So this is sitting outside of the 0 frame braces because it doesn't need to be part of the command bundling that's happening here. We need to execute these lines in sequence. This one, we don't need to worry about it. It's going to sit outside of 0 frame. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this. Let's select Syel's token. Paste this into chat, run it, and there we go. We see we get the message on screen. We have the 3 tokens that have been summoned. We got the special effect, and we reduced the number of spell slots that we have remaining. So this is all working properly. And now what we can do is go back into our character sheet. We can go to the attributes and abilities section, say add, scroll all the way down, and we can call this new ability cast mirror image, and then we can just paste this code right in here, and now we could put it on the macro bar if we wanted to, or we could make it a token action. Honestly, I recommend making it a token action because you need to have Syel's token selected in order to cast this, and this way now when he's selected, he's going to have cast mirror image right there. He can click it, it'll spawn in the mirror images, do the special effect, deduct the spell slot, and we're good to go. So now that we've got the mirror images spawned onto the board, let's automate the second half of this spell, which is determining whether or not an attack hits us or a mirror image. So we're going to create a script card that will determine how many mirror images are currently on the board. Based off of that, figure out what number we have to roll on a d20 in order to have an attack hit the image instead of us, make that die roll, and then display the results in chat. Let's see how to do it. So when we're done, the output is going to look like this, where we have a card in chat that tells us how many mirror images are currently in play, what the ImageAC is. We'll make the die roll. Here we've rolled a 4 versus a target of 6, which is what we have to roll when we have 3 images. You can see that we failed to make that roll, and so the attack that's coming in at us is going to hit us instead of one of the images. So let's see how we build this. We're going to start out with a line like this, exclamation point script, and then 2 opening curly braces, and then 2 closing curly braces. Everything between these 2 curly braces is part of a script card. Within our script card, the first thing we want to do is display the title of mirror image. So that's going to be done with a line of code like this, -- title, setting the title of the script card to mirror image. Easy enough. So now the next thing we need to do is figure out how many mirror images are currently on the board. And we're going to accomplish that with 2 lines of code. The first line looks like this. And what's happening on this line is we are creating an array. Now, an array in programming is just a collection of items. And so what we're saying here is we are creating an array of selected tokens. Specifically, the tokens that we are selecting are the mirror image tokens. So basically, select manager is selecting all the mirror image tokens on the board. We call this array function, which makes an array from those selected tokens, and it's named myarray. This dummy thing, we just need a placeholder piece of text there, so don't worry about that. But what this is doing is this is selecting all the mirror image tokens on the battlefield and then storing them in an array called myarray. Then what we're going to do is have our next line, which uses this getCount function on myArray to say how many items are currently in the array. So basically, how many mirror images are there? And it's going to take that number and store it in this count variable. So this first line is just collecting up all of the mirror images on the board. This line is saying, okay, how many images did we collect? So right now, the answer would be 3. Okay, so we've got our title, we're counting how many images are on the battlefield. Now what we want to do is make our d20 die roll. That's going to look like this, where we are -- equals, this is declaring a numeric variable equal to the roll of 1d20. So we're going to roll a d20, and whatever number we get is going to be stored here in DieRoll. Now we also want to calculate the ImageAC. You can see I've got that in my title bar up here. It's saying the ImageAC is 13. So to calculate that, we're going to do a similar thing to what we had earlier, -- equals. So we're declaring a numeric variable, and the ImageAC is 10 plus the caster's dexterity modifier. So it's 10 plus at parentheses Syel Lanuit, that's my character name, exactly as it appears on my character sheet, and then dexterity mod. So in Syel's case, that's a 3. You'll notice that I'm using parentheses rather than curly braces here. That's because this property is being retrieved via the metascript fetch, and that's allowing us to pull more properties out of a character sheet or off of a token than we would normally be able to do otherwise. So this is really handy because now we're going to be able to calculate the ImageAC automatically. All right, so now that we've retrieved the number of images and the AC, we want to display that in the script card. So this 3 mirror images can be displayed using a line of code that looks like this. So -- left sub means we are putting the text in this part of the script card. And then &count is how we're referring to the count variable we created earlier. You're going to notice that it has an ampersand here. That's how we handle a string variable, that is text, in our script cards. And you may be wondering, well, why is it text rather than a number? And the answer is this function, this getCount function, actually returns a string rather than a number. So we're going to use an ampersand to refer to this. And then we also want to calculate our ImageAC and display that on the right-hand side of the script card. So that's going to be done with a line like this, --right sub, ImageAC, and then the ImageAC that we calculated earlier. And you'll notice now we're using a $sign here. That's because this is a numeric value, and the $sign is used to refer to that. So ampersands are for strings or text, and the $sign is for numbers. So we figured out our ImageAC, how many images there are. We've got our title. Now what we need to do is determine what the target number we need to roll is. And again, depending on how many mirror images we have determines what the target DieRoll that we're making right here needs to be. That's going to be done with a line like this. So --c, this is a case statement. And a case statement allows you to specify a variable and then test a bunch of conditions against that variable. So what we're saying here is we're looking at count. If count is 3, so if there are 3 mirror images on the board, we're creating a variable called target, and we're setting its value to 6. So that's the number we need to roll if there are 3 mirror images on the board. If there are only 2 images on the board right now, then we take that target variable and we set its value to 8. And then if there's only 1 image remaining, so if count is 1, then we take that target variable and we set its value to 11. So whatever number we need to roll is going to be stored in this target variable. And then what we want to do is output that information to chat. So --plus means we are outputting this line to chat, and then the word roll, that's what's showing up over here. And then you rolled our D20 DieRoll, which again is a $sign, so there's a numeric value here, versus a target of, and then the target number, which is also a numeric. So we've told the player that they've rolled a 4 versus a target of 6. So now what we need to do is build some logic into the script card to say if the DieRoll is higher than the target, then the attack would hit a mirror image, and if the DieRoll is lower than the target, then the attack hits the character. So the way you perform logic like that in a script card is like this, where we have a line that says --? So this is a conditional statement. We're saying if the DieRoll is greater than the target number, then we're going to do whatever's on the side of this pipe and between this open square bracket and this square bracket. And then this closing pipe here indicates that we are done with our if statement. So if the DieRoll is greater than the target, then we want to output some text saying that the attack targets a mirror image. Otherwise, if it is lower than the target, what we're going to do here is put in another open bracket and another closing bracket, and we're going to say that the attack targets you. And then finally another closing pipe, and those closing pipes are very important. If you don't have those, then the script card will not work properly. So this is everything. Now we've done all the coding at this point. So let's go ahead, let's take this, let's just test it out real fast. And we're going to paste this into chat. Let's run it again. Okay, so we got 3 mirror images. Our AC is being calculated properly. We rolled a 9 versus a target of 6. And so the attack targets a mirror image. If the attack roll was higher than a 13, then the image would be destroyed and the player could delete the token off the battlefield. And then the next attack comes in. We run this again. We see now we have 2 mirror images. Our AC is still a 13. We rolled a 9 against a target of 8. The target is attacking a mirror image. Let's say that it hits the image's AC. The player deletes the mirror image off the battlefield. Final attack comes around. Same thing. Here we go. We rolled a 3 versus a target of 11. We get attacked and maybe we take some damage. Upshot is this is working properly. What we can do now is create another ability on our character sheet for this. We can just call this mirror image roll, paste in our code, save it. Again, we can make this a token action. And now our bard has both the casting and the roll of the mirror image readily available to them. And we're good to go. So there you have it. That's how you can automate 5e's mirror image spell. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please give it a like and consider subscribing. And until next time, folks, have a great day.